So
okay,
they can
then
ask.
we will be able to join. I mean, see them.
No, you can't see them. They can see us.
Okay.
So at the bottom, you'll see participants. So 29 participants have joined.
Okay, 29 have joined.
So
But
it's.
we should be very particular about the punctuality. So we
Of
won't wait
course.
for others to join. We can start.
We should start. We're also live on YouTube now. So good evening, everyone. Very quickly, my name is Atul Khosla. I'm the founder and pro-vice chancellor of Shulini University in Kasole Hills, Solon. As a quick background, I'm a BTech from IIT Kanpur, MBA from a school called Jamnalal Bajaj in Bombay. And then I spent around 20 odd years in the corporate sector, specifically in consulting with a firm called McKinsey and Company. 7 different countries where I worked, and my area of specialization was actually leadership. So I worked with lots of CEOs across the world, helping them imbibe leadership traits across their companies. So I'm so delighted that Jaya ma'am, you've got this wonderful topic today. We have Mr. Vivek Atray, and who doesn't know Vivek, but I'll still try to make him blush and embarrass him. Vivek is a dear friend, visiting professor and advisor to Shulini University, but more importantly, I think an absolutely fascinating speaker, a TEDx speaker, an ex-IAS officer, and an amazing personality. So I think with that introduction, I again say thanks to the lovely school, the Hansrad School in Panchkula, and Jia ma'am, to you and all the teachers to be here today. We'll take around 30 to 35 minutes of discussion that Vivek will have. I'll jut in a couple of times for showing a couple of videos and also some thoughts from my end. And before we start, Jia ma'am, I'll appreciate if you could address your teachers for a minute or so, and then we'll hand it over to Vivek for the mega session.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Atul. First of all, I welcome Mr. Vivek Atray. I mean, he is no new to my teachers, but whenever he comes, whatever talks he gives, it's like a motivation for all of us. I'm really glad today, even in this situation, when the epidemic has locked us in and the world is in a pause, but we are all doing, like I remember the words of the bard, William Shakespeare, the show must go on, right? So we must be talking with each other and learning from each other. It's a very good opportunity for my teachers. I welcome all my teachers also. I hope we will all learn from his experience, and we are looking forward to hearing from you, sir. Thank you. And I once again thank Shulini University for giving us this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jia ma'am. And before I hand it over to Vivek, you mentioned something about timing. In the school world, you still maintain a lot of discipline, but I can tell you that the outside world, outside of schools, the Indian stretchable time works. But the beauty of webinars and the beauty of technology is that we're all starting on time. I've never seen a meeting go late. So that's one very big silver lining. And of course, we can talk to each other despite being so many miles apart. So with that, over to you, Mr. Vivek Atray.
Thank you, Professor Atul Khosla, and thank you, Jaya ma'am. Thank you, teachers, for joining. I believe there are about 45 participants in all now. And it is good to be here talking to you all. Although I am in Panchkula and Hansrad School is in Panchkula, many of you are in Panchkula, but the organizers are in Solon, and that's an interesting facet of technology. Shulini University is bringing this seminar, this webinar to various schools. I have been speaking for the last 10 days or so on these seminars, webinars, and Atul Khosla, who's a good friend who introduced me and welcomed, he and I have been sharing our views on these topics, which are very interesting topics, which we've taken up. And I must credit you, Jaya ma'am, for choosing a topic which no one else has chosen till now. So it's the first time we're taking up this topic in this series of leadership. And leadership is something which all of us have to exhibit. And I know all the teachers of Hansrad School have met me before, seen before, and heard me before. But it is, I think, every 6 months it's good to renew, or every 4 months, 5 months, it's good to renew knowledge sharing and experience sharing. And it's nice to be here talking to you. Shulini University, in fact, we will be seeing a video later. I am also missing going to the campus. It's such a beautiful campus, and we can't go anywhere nowadays, as all of you know. But we are in touch with Shulini IIM, and I'm an advisor and visiting professor with them. So I am very happy to be involved because they are the management, the Khoslas, Professor Khosla, the Vice Chancellor, and Atul Khosla, and the whole family and the whole management. They think alike. The progressive nature, the kinds of positive thinking, creative thinking, innovation, research is the focus. And that is something which is leading to all these great endeavors. So let me start with the topic and let me talk about the crisis, because leadership comes in a crisis, and leadership is easy when things are going well. When absolutely hunky-dory and perfect, then leadership is not even tested. Leadership is tested only when it is time for some challenge. And when things are going smoothly, it is not a challenge at all. So I remember attending a session by John Buchanan. And John Buchanan was the coach of the Australian cricket team. And in Delhi, he came to speak. He said, I want a team which works on its own, which functions like clockwork, which doesn't require the coach to intervene. Anything that the coach has to do should be done by the team on its own. So he said, I want that stage to be reached where the system is functioning like clockwork. Now, of course, he went on to say other things where he said that I want everybody to do their bit. And he said that I want each player to take 3 wickets or 2 wickets and make 40 runs, which means that everybody is like an efficient machine. Of course, that leaves out people who are brilliant, like someone like Shane Warne may take 8 wickets also, or someone like Matthew Hayden in their team could have scored a triple century also. So the thing is that while taking into account the various different kinds of individuals in our team, there may be some who are extremely brilliant, some who are just so-so and average, some who are above average and very good. We have to take along everybody. And as teachers, you are leaders. At the moment, the parents' community and the children's community is looking at the teachers. And whether it is online, whether it is through webinars, or whether it is through phone calls or whatever it is, they are looking at you for guidance. And when you are cool and calm, when you are solid and stable, then they also feel reassured. So the school is an institution which has a great responsibility. The principal and in turn the teachers, they all have to be calm and cool people. Just before this particular session, I was on a session with PGI and Ministry of Healthcare. And they were talking about motivation and morale for healthcare professionals. And since I'm a motivational speaker, I was answering some questions. And not only from PGI, they were all over India, and they were all over 15 countries from SAARC and East Africa and East Asia. So 15 to 16 countries. So I was telling them that when people are undergoing so many crises like today, the healthcare professionals are at the forefront of the battle. And if the healthcare professionals remain cool, calm, and stable in the mind, then they will be able to lead the world. They will be able to show the world how a crisis can be tackled. And they are doing it. We really need to applaud them. But as Atul Khosla often says, even teachers are doing the same job. Teachers are making sure that classes, teaching, training, or homework, or written work, or whatever it is in some way continuing. Of course, it becomes difficult at times to carry out such work online. There is too much burden on the system and data. If we keep on sending written text after text or pictures after pictures, then we cannot do it like we do in a physical environment in the classroom. But there are many things which we can do. And many people are scared of Zoom, this, that. I think there's no need to be scared. You can tell the parents also. There are so many checks and balances. I have been in these webinars of Shulini University for the last 10, 12 days. I have not seen even one minor glitch on Zoom. And it is possible to make secure and safe your format. So what do teachers need to do? They also need to be calm in the mind. They also need to lead. And in a crisis, that leadership is tested. Supposing in a classroom also, in a classroom situation, a child falls sick, suddenly faints, collapses. The children of the class are more scared than the teacher, but the teacher will panic, and the teacher will rush to the child and call out somebody and shout and whatever she has to do, which is fine, it's normal. But if the teacher is shown to be panicking a little too much, or is not able to handle the situation, or is not able to take steps which are required to make that child undergo the treatment that is required, or is ill-tempered with somebody, or is, herself nervous, then the children also notice that, and the staff also notices. So somehow we have to be superhuman in that situation as a leader. And leadership also is in the family. The mother and father, the parents have to show superhuman qualities at times, because the children are watching them. A 12-year-old or an 8-year-old or a 14-year-old, 16-year-old, they're all perceptive. They see that the parents are either collapsing, shouting, panicking, or they are stable, calm, dignified. So we have to choose what we want to be. And children will pick up those same qualities. So if a family is dignified, it means that firstly, they're not talking about negativities too much. They're not going on discussing people who are doing something wrong, people who are not able to handle the lockdown, for example. We had migrants, we had people breaking the curfew. If people keep criticizing them only, that these are the people responsible, etc., it spreads negativity in the family. Everybody knows what is going wrong and what is going right. If we talk about what is going wrong too much, then we are sending the wrong message to people who are looking up to us. And there are many people looking up to us. You may be an elder person in the family. You may be a teacher of 40, 50, 100 children. You may be more children may be with you. You may be a parent. You may be an elder brother, sister. So what I suggest is that calmness, dignity, and positivity has to be shown. So there are many qualities enunciated in the Bhagavad Gita also. I was reading out a list of 26 of them. And because we are sitting together on leadership, there is no better list to read than that list. Once again, I'll read it for this webinar. And this is a list of 26 qualities that the Bhagavad Gita says we should have. And these are not only for leaders, but for any human being. All of us are human, so we don't have them in 100% quality, but we can have some of them. And we can have all of them to some extent. So let's see. Number one, fearlessness. Fearlessness means we have faith in ourselves. We have less worries, more faith. Of course, we can have some worries and we have fear. We can't be 100% fearless, but most of the time we have faith. Number two, purity of the psyche. That means we are not only criticizing, not suspecting, not jealous, not hating. We are trying to be positive in the mind. We are trying to think positive thoughts. Perseverance in yoga is the third one. That means yoga and meditation are so important that we take them seriously and keep ourselves fit and balanced, and physically as well as mentally and spiritually. Then charity, helping others. That means that in this crisis or any crisis, we are supporting others like many of us are doing. Self-restraint is the next one, which means that we are able to control our emotions. We are able to control our temptations. Sometimes you are tempted to shout. Even that is a temptation. Tempted to say something negative against someone. That is also a temptation. So we control ourselves. Sacrifice. We sacrifice certain things for others. Study of the scriptures is the next one. That means we are studying the scriptures or spiritual books, meditating, finding time for our own selves, especially in this time when we can. Austerity, which means not overspending. When the lockdown ends, we'll all go back to Alante. But when we go back to Alante, are we controlling our urge to overspend? Austerity. Honesty. Honesty means we are honest with ourselves. Character means we are doing the right thing when nobody's watching. And we cannot be perfect, but we try. Next is non-violence. And non-violence means non-violence of thought. That means we are not thinking aggressive thoughts about someone, that this person should, collapse. And Punjabi में कई गालियां होती हैं इस किस्म की कि मर जाए, ये हो जाए, वो हो जाए. Not thinking like that. Truthfulness. That means saying the right thing, speaking the truth, but not speaking the truth when it hurts. It doesn't mean that. It means speaking the truth to help someone. Absence of anger. That means using self-control to not be angry. Renunciation, which means again like sacrifice. We renounce certain things which are luxuries for us. We declutter our lives. We make them simpler. Equanimity, which is the greatest quality to have. Equanimity means even-mindedness, being even-minded. I'll continue with this list in a while. We have covered 14 of these qualities. Atul Khosla has a video to show about a very creative student of Shulini University who was a troublesome child and is now doing so well. Over to Atul.
Thank you, Vivek. I think what a wonderful list, and what could be a better scripture than the Gita for learning leadership. I think the Westerners and the gurus over there need to read the Gita and actually propel and teach from there. But the whole topic about leadership also comes to two things, which I want to speak about for a second. The first is, how do you make ordinary people do extraordinary things? We know leaders who were not good leaders, and they made the careers of extraordinary people look ordinary. But then there are some leaders who take ordinary people and make them do extraordinary things. So what is that? How do you go about doing that? One very specific thing which I always tell my team and also my clients is that creativity and thinking outside the box is an important thing that you can do. You can push your team to actually think outside the box, of course, in a risk-free environment. They should feel that they will, there is no risk in terms of coming up with new ideas and doing new things. And if you can provide that culture, that environment, you will see that the sky is the limit. An example over here is going to be a student by the name of Aman. Aman comes from Punjab, comes from a lesser privileged family. She did her undergrad and master's at Shulini. But when she joined PhD, she happened to work with an extraordinary professor by the name of Saurabh Kulshrestha. So Saurabh was able to completely turn around Aman. He gave her a problem that looked impossible to solve. And then together they came up with a solution which was absolutely extraordinary. I will talk a little more about Aman, but let me first play the video. It's a minute or so. You'll get a sense about the extraordinary work that Aman has done. I'll talk about her achievements post the video. So give me a second, and let me just play the video for all of you. Every time I see this video, I get goose pimples. The point I wanted to make over here, very quickly about Aman's story again. We'll talk about the idea, but what a simple idea. Moringa is nothing but drumsticks. We've been having drumsticks all life in Sambar. I think you all know drumsticks. It came out of accident. This whole thing came about of excellence, and an excellence in an accident. So they came up with, they were actually doing this experiment for trying to develop an antibiotic, and they started seeing that moringa seeds actually kill bacteria in water. So Aman has now been awarded as a young water fellow, which basically means that she's been selected by the United Nations out of more than 100,000 researchers in the world. She spent 6 months in Geneva as part of this award. She also won a 25 lakh award by Tata Trust and Lockheed Corporation exactly on this idea. A simple idea. They thought outside the box. They were creative. And Dr. Saurabh was able to give a risk-free environment to make Aman fearless, I would say. This idea is now being actually picked up by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We just heard about that yesterday, Vivek. And who knows, this could change the way the world drinks water. And if it does, who knows, Aman might even win the Nobel Prize. But that's far-fetched, but small ideas with fearlessness, with thinking outside the box can change the world. Over to you, Vivek.
Thank you, Atul. That's a great example of true leadership and really well said. So I'll run through the list, and the next point in the Gita about leadership and about qualities that we should all have is abstinence from malicious talk. That means we control ourselves from saying malicious things, over aggressive, negative things to others. Tu theek nahi hai, tu kharab hai, tu ye hai, tu wo hai, whatever. Or even worse things which can be said. So we cut out that hatred from our talk. Compassion for all creatures. We all understand that. You are teachers. You are compassionate towards children, towards colleagues, towards families. Ladies anyway have more compassion than men generally. And compassion for all creatures is something which gives us leadership qualities. Then freedom from greed. That means that we have what we have. We are thankful for what we have. We don't overdo it. We are not greedy. There is an example of a lassi wala in Jaipur, and he's the most popular lassi wala in that part of the world. And his lassi is selling till 3 p.m. every day when lockdown is not there. And at 3 p.m. he closes. And the next 10 lassi walas start selling lassis after that, because he's not greedy. Otherwise, he's so good that nobody will buy from the other 10 until this one is closed, because they cannot afford to reach before 3. So it is something that he could have expanded, but he doesn't want to. No greed, comfortable till 3 o'clock, that's it. Then gentleness of behavior, conduct, speech, thought. Then modesty. That means humbleness, humility, not wanting to overshow, over display what you have, being modest. Absence of fickleness. That means you are constant in your behavior. You're stable in your behavior. It's not like your opinion keeps shifting. Then splendor of personality, splendor of persona, of the way you are, the way you think, the way you conduct yourself. Then forgiveness, such an important quality as a leader, especially to forgive those who have harmed you. You forgive them, you become superior to them because you have forgiven them. And by retaliating, taking revenge, there's nothing to gain. Yes, you have to be firm. Fortitude, firmness, resoluteness, strength. Then cleanliness of surroundings, cleanliness of mind. Then absence of malice, which means no malice against anyone. Then absence of pride. That means we are humble again, we have humility. So I'm going to tell you the example of a captain of a ship. If you look at a captain of any ship which is sinking, what a leadership quality he displays. The captain is the one who has to go down with the ship. It is the ultimate sacrifice. He will not jump into the rescue boat until all are rescued. You remember the Titanic movie? It's a good film to watch even during lockdown. Titanic shows how the captain goes down with the ship. Of course, many people die anyway in that episode. But there are so many instances. And this is valor, bravery. So that kind of leadership is not required of a school teacher. Normally, you will not have to do that. Someone like Neerja Bhanot, who was an air hostess, would also not have thought that she will have to make the ultimate sacrifice. But she did. And I know the family, you know, they're from Chandigarh. Great people. So we seek inspiration. And there is no leadership without inspiration. After 10 years, 12 years, 14 years of our service, we become listless, dull, bored. That ye to theek hai, ye bhi theek hai, matlab routine. We take it lightly. We take it in a manner that doesn't spark any extra enthusiasm. So we have to show that drive, that enthusiasm every day of our lives. So being inspired by someone, being motivated by the life of somebody, reading autobiographies and reading Dalai Lama's autobiography, Usain Bolt's autobiography, any field you like, Gandhiji's autobiography, an autobiography of a yogi, I've often mentioned to you in your school also. Read that autobiography. It's a great book to read. Be inspired. And be inspired in a manner that you keep rejuvenating and renewing yourself. And this lockdown, whatever remains of it, is a time to be rejuvenating, to be recharging. And at every stage of life, every year, you should take out a break to do what you have to do for your own self-improvement. And that makes good leadership. And the last point I'd like to make, because this is linked to this, although the session is on leadership, but emotional intelligence and people skills are a part of leadership. Leadership can have vision. It can have ideas. It can have power. It can have authority. It can have dynamism. But if it doesn't have people skills, a leader who cannot talk properly to others, a leader who cannot appreciate others, understand others, correct others when required, show them where they should be right, where they are right, where they are wrong, that kind of leader will exude confidence, will exude that kind of aura which is required. So in each of your sectors or fields or areas of jurisdiction, you are leaders to your little circle, even in your family. So show that leadership, and your followers or children or students, they learn from your example. They don't learn about what you say, they learn from what you are. So that is the kind of leadership that needs to be displayed. And you are. Teachers are very inspiring people. Most of the teachers I meet are pleasant, are cheerful. It is another great quality to have. Are well educated, obviously, well read, good speakers, and great orators, because when they go to class, they have to speak. And that is something which I learned much later in my career, how to speak in public. So being a good orator and being a good communicator is also part of leadership. So I'm going to request Atul Khosla to add some points on leadership and communication. He's leading a university with great panache and drive. And I'm sure that he can add to what I've said and give some more examples. And then we'll probably take some questions and a video.
Thank you, Vivek. I'll be preaching to the Pope, but a couple of thoughts from me. When I started working, I'll just tell you a minute of my story. I started working for one of the leading American multinationals by the name of McKinsey and Company. And my early days, I was a bit of a disaster. Two things were happening. One is I was expected to lead large client teams. There was a situation where I was 25. The client team manager who would report into me was actually a teacher of mine in business school. So imagine a situation, my teacher was reporting into me. Oh God, I was so scared. The second thing which happened to me was I could barely speak. I used to stammer to the extent that I was told to actually quit the company. So I did two things. First is I made a mentor. There was someone whom I really admired, and I went up to him and I asked him, what do I do in a leadership situation? So there's something I remember he told me, which I think is relevant to all of you. He said, Atul, if you've been given the leadership position, then you have to be the leader. You can't not be the leader. You don't have an option. So you have to start behaving like a leader, which also means that you cannot be a leader just for those 5 hours. If you're a leader, you need to start behaving like a leader, 24 hours of your life, 360 days, 365 days of the year. And he gave a very beautiful example. He said, when you become a parent, when you become a father or a mother, even if there are people who, let's say, drink or they give gullies or they don't speak well, the moment they become a father or a mother, they change. And they have to play the role of a parent pretty much 24 hours. And that's exactly what you have to do as a leader, because you can't sort of say, I switch off and I switch on. I show a very responsible aura during those 6 hours. And after that, I'm out there doing something else. So that was my first learning, being a leader, to say, okay, I have to start, I have to take the fear off and I have to start behaving like a leader 24 hours, a lot of responsibility. And I'm sure Vivek did that as a very young SDM when he went to Kalka, lots of stories on that. The second thing which I learned, Vivek, was communication skills and persistence. So I could speak, as I said, so for the next 7 years, I would speak to a camera every day between 6 to 7 in the morning till I learned how to speak. I can do reasonably okay now. I'm not as good as Vivek, but I do a reasonably okay job. So practice is another thing, because you have to be the role model as a leader. You can't say, I can't do it. You have to fight from the trenches. A leader knows exactly what's happening in his or her domain. So these were 2 or 3 thoughts from my side. And I think the last, of course, thing which Vivek spoke about in multiple pointers is what I call values. A great leader will also have values, lives by those values. And I'm sure as teachers, you have to live by those values pretty much every day, every minute, every second, every moment of your breath. So if people tell you that you can be successful without values, don't believe in them. All great leaders have great values. Last thing I'll also say is that every great leader I know, whether role models that we hear on television or newspapers that we read about, or people that we admire, all of them have great hobbies. So if you want to be a great leader, you also have to be a special person. So if you've got hobbies, whether you cook, whether you sing, whether you dance, please make sure you don't throw them into the dustbin. This is the time actually to start practicing them. Whether it's Mr. Modi who does yoga, or it was Steve Jobs who also did yoga, by the way, all of them are special people. They have the ability to talk way beyond their core area of work. So with this, I would also like to thank all of you as teachers. I think all of you in India are playing the role of a leader today. There's a revolution that's happening in education, and that revolution is what we call online. All of you have amazingly adopted the whole online education space like nothing else. We don't speak about it. I don't know why the media doesn't talk about it, but in my opinion, you teachers are amazing leaders who have stepped up to the situation. You are also Corona warriors, and you are Corona warriors in a greater sense, because you not only have to take care of your school children and teach them, but you also have to take care of your own family. You're also mothers and fathers and husbands and wives and daughter-in-laws or sons-in-law and sons and daughters, and you're playing that role so well. And if it was not for you, India might not be the same place what it is today. So thank you very much. The future of India is young people. And that is the motto of Shulini. We believe that if we can change the future, or if you want to change the future of India, we have to change the young minds. So I would play a small video, and we'll then request you to ask any questions to Vivek or me, and we'll be delighted to answer those. But give me a second to play this video, and then over to Vivek.
Throughout history, the young have always been the ones to shape the future. history's biggest asset, our best bet to conquer the future. So what are you waiting for? Your time to dream is now. Dream of the research that can change the world. Dream of a high-flying corporate career. Dream of higher studies in the world's best universities. Dream of developing cutting-edge technology of the future. Dream of your own global startup. At Shuri University, we empower you and enable you to chase your dreams and change the world. Think learning, think success.
So before we get into Q&As, Vivek and I'll please request every teacher to ask questions. Your last thoughts, 1 minute of summary.
Yeah, so you see, it is a question of what you think of yourself. It's like Atul Khosla said, he had this major thing about stammering, which, I mean, it's difficult to imagine getting up 7 years and speaking before a camera. It obviously worked, Atul. I mean, you're speaking so well now and so clear about what you're saying. And I think it is something which we need to challenge ourselves on if we have certain shortcomings in our personality. And many people, they just cannot handle another facet, which is anger and irritability. And that is something which a modern human being must combat in order to live a more healthy life, mentally, physically, spiritually. Anger management. So as I said once before, I myself am a Scorpio by birth, and I used to lose my temper a lot. I think it was linked to my sun sign, but it wasn't, because I've stopped losing my temper that much. For the last maybe 10 to 12 years since I started meditating, it has really changed. And now I'm calmer, and people take me seriously, but I'm calm. And so we have a couple of questions, I hope, coming in. Till then, we can please type your questions on the chat, which is below, or the Q&A, which is below. Teachers can type their questions there, and then I can take them up and Atul can take them up. So I'll just also give you the story of somebody whom I spoke about that day, and Amitabh Bachchan's tweet on Rishi Kapoor was the first tweet that came out when Rishi Kapoor passed away. I was wondering about Amitabh Bachchan a little more, and we pay our respects to Rishi Kapoor and Irfan Khan. Amitabh Bachchan has seen many of his friends go. And the way he is even today, he's such a superstar compared to many of them. And yet he's so calm and humble. And whenever KBC comes, I can't help but reiterate the fact that this man is so dignified despite being such a superstar. And if I can say it very bluntly, his wife is not known to be the most calm of individuals. And she's a namesake of Jaya ma'am here. So, but she's not calm. She's not, quiet. She's quite an angry person, so much so that we saw her at the airport before the lockdown in Delhi. And my daughter and I were there, and we were wondering whether to talk to her. And she was just standing with someone. But we thought, nahi, Amitabh Bachchan hota, we would have gone and talked to him, but not her. We don't want to risk getting, shouted at. So we need to see what kind of aura we emit. That is very important. Atul, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, I think till we get questions, and again, appreciate if you have any. So I have a couple, and this is for our teachers. They are living under so much stress right now, Vivek. Like we said, they not only have to manage school, but they also have to manage the family, and they're there with the family. So what's your advice to the teachers in these times? How should they relieve stress?
Yes, so very good point. In fact, there are two ways that I advocate. One is to prioritize, that is to list out what are the most important things to do and de-stress by giving more priority to those things so that you won't feel unhappy about having missed the important things and eliminate those which are time consuming but not really important. So important things, urgent things, and urgent but not important things, important but not urgent things, all these quadrants have to be covered and you have to prioritize. Second is meditation, as I always suggest. It will really help you to become de-stressed and handle your stress better. And ladies are very good at picking up new creative things. Meditation is also creative if you look at it that way. So I think we have 4 questions. Should we take them up?
Let's do that, and you can promote your book. Time for that,
Yes.
Vivek. That's
So,
the first question.
so somebody is saying, please suggest some books that are always on your list. And Atul very rightly said, so I have my book here. Here it is. It's called Finding Success Within. That's 52 life skills for young Indians. When I was in your school last time, it was not published. It came out just before the lockdown in time. And it is 52 life skills which young people need to read about and to be successful. I will also suggest to you that if you haven't read the autobiography of a yogi, now is the time to start. And I must say very clearly that even if you don't read my book, read the autobiography of a yogi. It's very, very important. Also read books like Yuval Noah Harari is a great author to read. Teachers are intelligent enough to read books by great authors like him. Where is the world going? What is likely in the coming century and what has happened in the past? Read people like him also. The next question, don't you think leadership...
I will pick up,
Atul,
one input over here. My favorite book for leadership is a book by an author called Richard Bach. And I'll just type it over here in a second. The book is called Jonathan Livingston Seagull. If you haven't read it, it's a simple book. I think it's probably got 100 pages. Amazing book to read. You'll have to read it 2-3 times to understand the essence of it. I'm sure Vivek would have heard it or read it. But if you haven't, strongly encourage you to read this book. It's the story of a seagull who is learning to fly like an eagle. And amazing story, amazing learnings. So that's from my side, Vivek, for the Q&A.
Great book, yes. I'll take 4 questions quickly. One is, Atul, you can also add, don't you think leadership is a heavy weight to carry? You have to be at your best behavior always. Absolutely correct. You see, I was in the IAS for 26 years, or HCS and IAS, and one had to carry that dignified appearance and bearing and be dignified in responses and not lose that. But I think it's something which should come naturally to human beings. Anyway, all parents are leaders, so it's not that difficult.
I'll try to answer this also, Vivek. So the CEO of ICICI Bank, Sandeep Bakshi, is a very dear friend. And I once asked him, Sandeep, you must be a very stressed man. How do you manage your stress? And he answered this so beautifully. He said, Atul, stress is relative. There's some people who have everything in life and they're still stressed. There's so many of them who go to psychiatrists because they're depressed and they are stressed. And there's some people who have lots of work and it's part of their life, but they're not stressed. So I think the moment leadership becomes part of your life and you start enjoying it, it will stop being a burden. So enjoy the happiness, enjoy the amazing life-changing stuff that you can do with your children and be a leader. Those are my 2 thoughts.
Absolutely.
Vivek.
And then we have someone saying that they are highly influenced and motivated. I know we all know all, but still helps to dream again. Yes, you must dream again and try and do the best you can. So these questions have come from Anupama Ahuja ma'am, Ritu Sood ma'am, Anupriya ma'am, and now we have a question from Prabhat sir. Can't be ma'am, so it must be Prabhat sir, who is saying, how was I able to control anger? Well, I think meditation helped me and seeing the bigger picture. You know, when you see the bigger picture, then you realize that if you're losing temper over small things, even in office, I was there. And I wasn't an angry kind of person, but at times one used to react. I was able to stop reacting to things which weren't worth it. And you only use your own balance in that way. Meditation definitely helped me morning, evening. Then we have Anupama ma'am. Thank you for giving us essential qualities. How as teachers can we encourage our students to be future leaders? Yes, so firstly, by your example, the way you are is what they're going to see, and you have to obviously balance their behavioral tendencies, teach them moral values and communication skills. These are the things that can be at least told to students, and there are so many things which they have to pick up on their own. Atul?
This is a very interesting topic, and Jia ma'am, I like to give an example. And I teach MBA students. When I enter the class, first year students in the first day, I ask the students, I ask them, whoever has any special trait, please put their hands up. And no one does, not a single person, right? I then ask a second question, which is, how many of you have played any game at the national level? So if it's a class of 100, 6 or 7 or 8 people will put their hand up. How many of you have performed in front of more than 1,000 people? Another 8 or 10. How many of you have cooked for more than 20 people at any point of time? Another set of guys. How many of you can sing or have sang in front of more than 30 people? Again, point I wanted to make is that each of those 100 students who, when asked a question, how many of you think you've got some special traits, were actually saying we don't have any, because unfortunately the world associates special traits to getting more than 98% marks or getting into IIT or IIM Ahmedabad, while every student is special. And we just don't encourage them to be special. There's so many examples, and I gave this example of Aman as an example when we were playing the video. So I would say as teachers, please encourage them beyond the textbook. There's so many examples of students who need not speak great English, for example, but can be great leaders. And as a pun, Vivek, I always say, if English speaking was the criteria to be successful, then India would be ruled by someone with a surname G and not M. And you know whom I'm referring to. So people have different traits. We need to let them blossom. We need to let them get that courage and fearlessness into them. And I think the moment they have that, they'll be very successful. And you as teachers have a great, great role to make that happen. You are on mute, Vivek.
Yeah, I was on mute. So we have a last question. We have two actually. So one is parents' lack of involvement. That's Upasana ma'am in children these days. A child has positive attitude, but the parents don't trust the teachers. Well, I think it must be a section of parents. It can't be 100% of them. So it is those parents you have to identify and probably talk to them one-to-one when they come for PTMs or whatever it is. It's important to work with them. If they still don't agree, then you just have to do your best with the child. And parents are actually stressed out at times because of overwork and long hours, and they don't have time to listen. So we have to work with the children more than the parents, but we try with the parents also. And the last one is two more. One is what are the forms of meditation? I follow something called Kriya Yoga by Paramahansa Yoganandaji. There are other forms of meditation. So you can see whichever is suitable for you. You can Google. And Shivani ma'am, that was Meenakshi ma'am. This is Shivani ma'am. How to measure your own performance at work. So I think it depends on not only the assessment of the school, but also you're right. You see if you're enjoying your work more. If you're not enjoying your work anymore, then you really are slipping somewhere. And if you're enjoying your work and your output is good and your feedback from parents is good or teachers or children is good, then you're doing well.
I'll pick this up before we close, Vivek.
Sure.
I think we all know when we're doing well and we are not. If you're honest and you're putting the right effort, then you know you're doing well. In the corporate world, we call it a leper stare. A leper stare is a stare you give to lepers. So when you're not doing well, you start getting leper stares from your bosses, from your colleagues, and you know internally when you're not doing well. And if you think you're doing well and let's say bosses are not, they don't believe you're doing well, I guess it's time to leave. It's time to switch. So it's internal and you will know when you're doing well is the message I'd like to give Vivek. I think with that, it's time for us to quit. I so wish we could have continued, but before we go, I'd request Jia ma'am to give us the last minute of her inputs. You're running such an amazing school, so we'd love to hear from you, ma'am. You are on mute, ma'am. Jaya ma'am, you're on mute.
Let me open this. So thank you so much, Mr. Atul and Mr. Vivek Atray, for such a nice talk. Mr. Atray, you simplified the Gita for my teachers. Thank you so much. All the 27 qualities. If not 27, they can have 20 or 25, maybe 50. It will be really great. And one more thing, when you were mentioning Titanic, I just want to add this for the comic relief. I got a WhatsApp on another day in which there was a picture, the Titanic, the ship is sinking, and the players are playing the music. You might have seen the movie. Then
That's right.
these are the teachers at this time of the lockdown. This end of this problem, teachers are teaching online. This is what they have compared to. And when I was seeing that, and I laughed. And I thought that I have to have a positivity. Okay, fine. They have the sense of sincerity. They know they are going to die. Even then, they want to do their job till the last moment. Like that, my teachers are also doing whatever they can do, because the transition was very quick, because we didn't get time to go online. Of course, they were
Absolutely.
very good with the smart classrooms and everything, but coming on to say Zoom or Google Meet and everything, and we had to do the hand holding like this only. I mean, not in the school giving practice, but they all, learned, because they are all great learners. And listening to you, I think they have learned more. And because they know that they have been the situation demands, they have to be leaders. They are situational leaders nowadays. They are the one who are dealing with the parents directly. Earlier, we used to be the barrier. The coordinator is there to listen to the parents' queries, and the principal is there. Now, they are the one who are interacting with the parents every day. They are visiting their, say, drawing rooms, and they are the part of their household every day. And sometimes we also don't know how the parents are behaving, because we have to counsel them every now and then. Everybody is under lockdown, and everybody reacts to this in a very different manner. And when you are talking to so many people, I'm hands off to my teachers, because they are all hearing whatever they are telling the parents, and they are not even expressed with you. That's why one of the teachers asked how to handle those parents, right? But I'm really thankful for all this input. I'm really happy to know that Aman is doing such a great job. I wish if he gets a Nobel Prize, then we will be all proud of him, because he is associated with Shulini University, and somehow today our school also started identifying with your university. So we will be really happy for him. And
Thank you, Jia ma'am. It's a true honor. I would also, I think, hopefully, inshallah, everything will get well very quickly. We won't let the Titanic sink, and we'll all live through the crisis. That's a promise.
Yeah, we will solve the crisis together. We'll come out
absolutely
with positive.
But once things get okay, I would like to personally invite all of you over to Shulini. Come and do an offsite with us. We have a beautiful campus. We've got a beautiful arrangement for stay. Get your students, get your teachers. Shikha will reach out to you, ma'am. But I and Vivek will also love to come and probably do a workshop on leadership, if you allow. I think let's see how things turn out. We'd love to associate with your school.
Thank you so much once again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Stay connected. Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.